Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 9 of the Nations Cup exhibition season. Let's get this started. This first right turn can be taken flat out. So once you bring yourself to the right as you go through this turn, you want to brake just as that turn ends. Brake hard for a short while and ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Do be careful about going on the curbs as the track limits here are pretty inconsistent and you can get a track limit penalty by going on the curbs. So to be on the safer side, you can keep 2 wheels on the track. Then bring yourself to the right, and just after you pass this little cone that is on the right, you want to brake hard for a short moment. Quickly ease off of the brakes and do a little throttle control as you go through these turns. As you approach the blue area on the right, you want to ease off of the throttle all the way, then clip this inside curb, and then get on the curb that is on the left. Then get 2 wheels onto the track before the curb on the left ends so you don't get a track limit penalty. Now let's fast forward through this, bring yourself to the left, look for a photographer that is hanging out in between the 200 and the 100 meter mark. Brake just before you pass him, then gently ease off of the brakes, get the car pointing where you want to go, and carefully start to accelerate. Now let's go ahead and fast forward through this again. This time bring yourself to the right and brake before you reach the 100 meter mark. This chicane is a little sharper than the one we just went through, so you want to slow yourself down a little more. Focus on getting the car pointing where you want to go so you can get a fast, clean exit. Now let's fast forward through this once again. Bring yourself to the left. Start to turn in a little to the right and brake just before the curb on the right starts. You're going to be braking hard for a while. Gently ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Carefully accelerate as you're getting a lot of wheel spin here. Now let's fast forward through this again for the 3rd or 4th time. Then be a little careful here. Brake as you approach this apex. Brake as much as you can, trying to bring yourself to the right. Ease off of the brakes. Gently get on the throttle and bring yourself to the left side of the track. So you're going to see this solid white line that is on the left. You want to brake just after that ends. So you'll be braking hard for a short while, and with the 787B, you can quickly go down to 1st gear, then back to 2nd to get some extra rotation. Carefully get on the throttle as you're getting some wheel spin over here as well. Now let's fast forward through this one more time. Stay on the left and brake just as you approach this green area that is on the left. Use around 50 to 75% braking power. Just bring yourself all the way to the right. Then do some throttle control as you go through these turns. A little more throttle control. A little bit of braking to bring yourself to the right. A little more throttle control. And now bring yourself to the right side of the track. Now this is where it gets really tricky, but you can shave off a lot of time. Open up a little bit and brake just as you approach the curbs. Then do a lot of braking control. This includes a lot of bursts of braking, bursts of throttle, and having some braking or throttle control to keep the car under control. Now carefully accelerate and you are good to go. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategies. For the qualifying session, you're only going to have 10 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time. Usually you'd get a bit more time for a long track like this, but unfortunately this is not the case, so you're not going to have that many chances to try to get the best qualifying time possible. You're only going to have 2 chances to try to get the best time possible, and you want to try to make sure that you can get that best time or a really squeaky clean lap on your first lap. And the reason why I say that is because the tire wear is pretty high, and with these Group C cars, the tire wear is going to be brutal. So you want to try to make sure that you can get the best time on your first lap. Now with all of these long straights, slipstream is going to be especially useful here to try to go even faster and shave off a bit more time. You do want to be careful as you approach a hard braking zone. you're going much faster than usual, so you're going to need a bit more braking distance to slow yourself down to the appropriate speed that you need to go through a certain corner as fast as you can. You also want to make sure that you brake a little earlier under the slipstream so you do not end up punting the car ahead of you and they end up getting really mad at you for that. But not much else to say from here. Once again, you only have 2 chances to try to get a good qualifying time. Take advantage of the slipstream, be mindful of the dirty air as well, and try not to punt the car ahead of you. Don't forget that this race does have a grid start, so you will need to bring the traction control to 1, and shortly after the race starts, you can then bring it back down to 0 or whatever value you normally have it set to. You have 2 goals for the first minute. Your first goal is to get a clean start out of the starting line, and your second goal is to survive all the shenanigans that are going to happen, especially as you approach the first turn. You're going to have 20 cars trying to jam their way through this chicane, so you just want to hope for the best and hope that the odds are in your favor. But going on to the strategies, fuel is not an issue, so you don't have to worry about that, but you do need to worry about the Tyre Wear. The Tyre Wear is a ×7, and that's actually an issue for this track since this track is pretty long. So the tires will be wearing out at a really fast rate, and you're basically not going to want to do a no stop. It is possible to do a no stop, but it's not going to be viable. So right now you're seeing me trying to do the no stop on the racing medium tires since those are the required tires for this race. We're 6 laps in and the Tyre Wear is really starting to get pretty brutal. It's going to make the car a lot harder to drive, even more so if you're under the dirty air. If you're also constantly stuck under the dirty air, that will increase the Tyre Wear rate. So you might see a bad right here in this clip, but if I was stuck under the dirty air for quite some time, then the Tyre Wear would be even worse. At this point, you'd have to nurse the car through the corners, especially out of the low speed corners, because if you get a little too aggressive with the throttle, you're going to easily generate wheel spin and you will risk spinning out. So for example, when you're coming out of this corner, you have to be extremely gentle when you're starting to accelerate. You can see just how long it takes for me to go from partial throttle to full throttle just because I'm trying not to generate any wheel spin. You can also see my lap times on the right side of the screen. So I was getting 322s, 323s, and now they're falling off the face of the earth with 324s and a 325. And this goes for both strategies. As your tires wear out, you will want to brake just a little earlier as your tires are not having all that grip that it will need to brake at your usual braking points. So at the end of this run, well, not this run, but a no-stop run that I did off camera by myself, I ended up getting a 2710, which is going to be pretty slow compared to the one stop, which is what you're seeing right now. So we're going to go ahead and see what kind of lap time we get for lap 2 on a racing soft stint, and we're going to get a pretty awesome 319. So we're flying through this track and we're already 3 seconds faster than a lap on the racing medium tires, and that's going to matter in this case because we will be forced to do a one stop. Once again, the Tyre Wear is pretty high, so we're going to want to pit at either laps 3 or 4 on our racing soft stint. When you want to pit is going to depend on your driving style and how often you are stuck under the dirty air. When you're under the dirty air, you're going to be understeering a bit more often, and that's going to increase the Tyre Wear rate. So when you're within the 3/4 of a second gap behind someone, you just want to be a bit more mindful of that. So you want to adjust your driving style so you can try to not have your Tyre Wear be even worse than that it already is now. Also, another thing I would like to note is that when you have fuel on your car is going to be heavier, so you will want to brake a little earlier than that you do in the time trial mode. So that's something I just wanted to note, so you don't end up overshooting your braking points when you're starting to practice or end up doing the actual race. Now we're going to go on over to the pit stop sequence, and you want to be a little careful as you enter the pit stop. There is a little chicane that you have to go through before the animation starts. It is going to take a little while, so you will have a somewhat of a big pit loss, but because of how the tire wear rate is, you will be able to make it up, and you'll see what I mean in a bit. So we're already done changing tires, and we're going to head out. Now you're going to see at the end of the race, we're on the racing medium tires, and our times are in the 320s, so that's actually not too bad compared to the 323s and on that we were getting through the no stop on the racing medium tires. And eventually we're going to cross the finish line, and we're going to end up getting 26:59, so that's a lot faster than the no stop. So the one stop is going to be the way to go for this race. Don't forget that the racing medium tires are required for this race, so make sure you put them on to avoid the 1 minute penalty that gets applied after the race ends. So when it comes to the pit strategy, go 3 soft, 5 medium, or go 4 soft, 4 medium. And the further back you start, you might want to switch up the tire order, so you start on the racing medium tires and then eventually switch on over to the racing soft tires. Now when it comes to car choice, the car that will be the go-to car is going to be the Mazda 787B. It's not just because of how cool it sounds, this thing is actually fast. So this car is pretty good when it comes to handling. The acceleration is alright. It's not the best, but it's still pretty good. And the top speed is going to be suitable for it to be dominant on the chicane version of Circuit de la Sarthe. And I want to go on a quick detour to note that the Nissan R92CP will not be the go-to car here because we are going through the chicanes here. If there is no chicanes, then the Nissan will be able to take advantage of its high top speeds, and in which that case the Nissan would be the go-to car. But because we have the chicanes to go through, it is not the go-to car. It will not be able to make the most out of its high top speed. But going back to the Mazda 787B, this car is pretty fast. It handles alright. It is a little understeered, but it's not a big problem. And the other good thing is that this car does have a pretty decent launch off of the starting line, because once again, we are having a great start. And the other car that will be a possible choice to go with will be the Sauber Mercedes. Now, before we get to the good things about it, I do want to note that there's already a problem with the Sauber, and it is when you're coming out of the starting line. It takes a while for it to get out of the starting line. As you can see, third place is in a Mazda, and he's just going to go ahead and easily catch up right into second and first place before all this chaos happens, which that's where it gets awkward. But anyways, so what makes this car good is that its turning ability is better than that of the Mazda. And the other good thing about this car is that the acceleration is better than the Mazda's as well. This car will send you flying out of the turn if you let it, so you can basically catch a couple Mazdas by surprise. However, the worst thing about this car is that it doesn't have the top speed. So as you see right now, I'm getting the slingshot effect from the Mazda in front of me, and well, the car just forgets how to go faster. And you're going to see it happen again in a moment. I'm going to see if I can try to catch up and pass them. So I got a slightly better exit. We're going to take advantage of the slipstream. We're going to see if we can try to go even faster than them to overtake them. And well, the acceleration was there, but then once we get to the top speed, that's where the Sauber kind of just forgets how to go faster. The Tyre Wear is also a little worse than the Mazda, so you want to be a little more careful as you're coming out of the low speed corners, because this car will also catch you by surprise if you're not careful. So at the end of the day, this is a one-stop race. The go-to car is the Mazda 787B, but an alternate choice is the Sauber Mercedes. But that is all from me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. CA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.